Welcome to Technado with Don Pezet, featuring sysadmin expert Don Pezet, security specialist Daniel Lowry, and Peter.
Hello and welcome to, what's the name again? Because we've been off for like 3 weeks. Technado with Don Pezet. That's where we are. And I am joined by Don Pezet, who has perfect attendance so far this year.
That's right. It's my my New Year's resolution.
Really?
See how long that lasts.
Yeah. Yeah. Normally they're gone by now.
Yeah. Next week, Don won't be here.
Well, you know, I was supposed to miss an upcoming week because of RSA, but RSA has been pushed all the way back to June. So we'll see. I'll get to miss a day then. But
Yeah, well, I'm sure it'll get pushed again. And again.
who knows?
I was really hoping to care.
Yeah.
I think they'll have COVID cured by then, though, right? I mean,
Oh, right.
You can cure anything in 6 months.
Yeah, easily.
I don't believe that's accurate. We did our prediction episode last week, so that's when you should have brought that up.
Yeah.
And Daniel, how are you today?
I am not unwell, thank you, sir.
Oh, sporting the B-Sides Tampa
The
shirt.
B-Sides. You know, this funny story talking about COVID. I got this T-shirt at B-Sides in 2019, right? Or the beginning
It
of
says
2020.
2020,
It was the
right?
beginning
Yeah.
of 2020. And as soon as I got home, they announced on the news that the first COVID patient in the United States or in the East Coast was in Tampa. And I was like, I just came from an international
You're like,
conference.
was it me?
Well,
Patient zero.
It's a photo of you on the news.
hypochondria starts kicking in real hard at that point.
And that other voice you hear today is our special guest today. We have Paul Deur, who's the co-founder of ReadyWorks. Paul, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me.
No problem. And you're, it's cold where you are, right? We were talking about that earlier.
Yeah, I'm in the Northeast, and it just flipped the switch. It got real cold real fast.
Yeah, there's probably people that are still stuck on I-95 listening to this podcast by the time it comes out. So thank you for joining us if that's where you are. Be safe. All right, well, let's jump in and get to know Paul a little bit more in our first segment, which is rapid fire questions.
Who do you work for?
What's new?
Who are you?
What's happening?
What's wrong with you?
All right, Paul. In this segment, we are going to rapidly fire questions at you. We'll rotate amongst us hosts, and each of us will ask you a question. A timer will appear on the right side of your screen. You'll have approximately 1 minute to answer each question.
Oh, I was early.
I took too long with my instructions. If you take too long, you get buzzed, kind of like that.
Yeah, I won't do it again.
There we go.
I won't do it again.
We'll move on to the next question. The first question will come at you from Peter.
I'm obviously rusty. It's the new year. I haven't pushed the button
It's
in
a
a while.
new year. Working out the kinks.
Sure, you're happy.
All right, well, Paul, so to get started, can you just give us an overview of ReadyWorks and tell us what you guys do there?
Yeah, sure thing. So ReadyWorks is a SaaS platform, and what we do is we use AI and automation to reduce the cost and risk of IT transformations for big enterprises. So what that means is every organization is trying to do some digital transformation, and they're really using antiquated tools and different approaches that really haven't evolved in about 20 years. And so we've taken a different approach to how that happens, and again, reducing the cost and risk of those efforts.
So you mentioned like cost and risk. Is the goal here to like get the transformation done faster, or is it just to reduce the amount of resources you need, like get less people involved? What's the primary focus?
Yeah, across the board, right? The approach is really just hasn't changed in 20 years. It's spreadsheets of information from different siloed systems. It's armies of engineers and consultants trying to mash together some information and then put together plans of action, of outreach to the business owners, to the stakeholders, and so forth. And it's just done in a very, very manual sort of way. So our approach and our thesis is really just applying tech and intelligence instead of bodies and brute force, and then applying automation for things that can be repeated over and over again. And that ultimately has the benefit for, faster timelines, less overhead and cost, and then just doing things with more consistency, because the more hands you have in the soup, right, there's more chances for error, there's more bad data, and by automating that and using kind of the underlying systems, we're able to just drive the efficiencies, pretty significantly, probably about 40% offset for labor, and then the risk is kind of a moving target, but it's definitely a part of the puzzle.
I don't know how you're cooking soup, but you don't want your hands in the soup.
That's a weird soup.
I think we're mixing our sayings there.
Yeah. Plus, I think they put people in like mental institutions. I'm making soup. No, you're not. Yeah. Anyway, let's get back to ReadyWorks. Paul, is any type of system up for grabs on this, or do you have to have some sort of like API or something to connect to it?
Yeah, no, that's kind of part of our secret kind of sauce, right? So we're able to connect into any place where there's information, right? Every organization has made investments in different systems, different tools, different things that have a function. So we're connecting to them by direct connections into the databases or via APIs, or if there's a CSV export that we're ingesting on some sort of scheduled basis. The goal is to kind of bring all this information that's otherwise siloed and then having a working kind of place for all of it.
So is this something that's targeted more at the small business that is trying to, do more with less, or the enterprise level that has all these big systems, or kind of both? Can you work with both there?
Yeah. So our smallest customer is probably about 2,000 assets or seats, if you will, and then our largest is over hundreds of thousands with millions of changes on a daily basis. So we tend to skew more towards the enterprise customer. That said, it's really for anyone that's got legacy infrastructure or legacy footprint, and that's really trying to go through these transformations. That's trying to take them from some starting point and then evolve into a new target end state.
Gotcha. So in a second, we're going to talk about kind of how you got started in this, but this is a relatively new venture, only a couple of years old. So where are you guys at right now? What's 2022 hold for you? Are you kind of in growth mode at this point?
The thing is, it's a new venture in the sense that the software platform and the focus of what we do as a platform is kind of new, but the challenge and the pain is kind of the same, and it's going to be an ongoing and a growing one, going forward. The idea of transformations it's you're never going to be done. You're never going to get to the point where you're going to get to some endpoint and then you're going to stop. It's going to be an ongoing pace, and the scope and the scale and the complexity of all of that is just going to continue to grow, right? We're kind of seeing a perfect storm of the demand, the complexity, the different environments, more of everything. And so our goal is really just to kind of keep focused on what we do really well and continue to kind of build off of that foundation and build into more and more use cases in a horizontal sort of way.
Makes a lot of sense. All right, well, that's kind of a great segue to talk about our next segment, which we want to talk about kind of where you got started, where not just you personally got started, but the idea for ReadyWorks and what this came out of, because it sounds like maybe a problem that you faced personally and found that solution for. So let's move on to our next segment, which is the origin story.
Yeah. So,
I got a big intro I'm playing. Sorry. Sound effects.
This is a pretty hardcore origin story.
I mean, that's my one thing that I get to do in this. please don't take me away.
Rob him of his joy.
Yeah, I know I screwed up the buzzer earlier, and I apologize for that. But yeah, so let's talk about that origin story. So, where were you when you had this idea and said this is something that we need to do and we can do better?
Sure. So just prior to ReadyWorks, myself and the other co-founders were essentially, we bootstrapped a services organization that we ran for nearly 20 years. And what we were doing was helping large enterprise organizations, really deploy big transformations. So we partnered with the Microsofts, the Symantics, the Ciscos of the world, and we became VARs and integrators that helped them deploy their technology into these customer bases. So we were constantly dealing with organizations that were trying to deploy new stuff, deal with the changes, the complexities, and the bottlenecks of deploying these things. And they're inherently long, they're inherently costly, and there's a lot of risk associated with introducing change to companies, at scale. And so, for nearly 20 years, that's where we cut our teeth. And we were constantly faced with the questions of how do we do this better? How do we do this more efficiently? How do we make ourselves and our offerings more competitive? And that was really the genesis of this idea. So it started out as a couple of scripts, a couple of, cobbled together pieces of ways to do things better, eventually morphed into this notion of a platform and what ReadyWorks is today, which is, a standalone software company, but it's really built out of being in the trenches for 20 years, doing deployments of, hundreds of thousands of endpoints and devices and rollouts, transforming data centers, from 5-6 footprints into one in a hybrid cloud sort of environment, so on and so forth. So we cut our teeth on doing it in the trenches and built a platform that really supported our emotions. And that's really, again, what we've now taken to market as a standalone offering that really customers are kind of getting the same benefits that we did as a provider, in early days.
So I'm always curious, when somebody starts a new company, it's usually you see a problem and you fix it, right? So you've got a solution to an issue, which you guys definitely did, but it kind of seems like there's an end to the problem, right? That you've got a lot of companies that haven't made the transition into the cloud, or they have these disparate proprietary systems that they're trying to migrate away from. Do you ever see that ending? Like there comes a point where like, hey, look, we've transformed everybody.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier. Like it's like my analogy is like, getting fit or becoming healthy, right? You don't change your diet and start working out and then just stop, right? The whole point is it's a different approach to doing things, and the scale and the pace of change is not going to end. Whether it's a new desktop for Windows 10 or 11 or whatever the next version is going to be, or when you migrate your workloads to the cloud, what security vulnerabilities is going to open up, or if you deploy kit and IoT devices to the edge, what happens when you need to do an upgrade or swap out that infrastructure. So you're actually just seeing more of everything, but you're seeing best-in-class solutions at very, very specific point solutions. And then that just creates this really, really complex, heterogeneous ecosystem of stuff. And that's all changing constantly. So I think, to your point, some of the traditional tools and some of the old approaches were really to manage a steady state with known processes and known stuff, where this notion of evolution and constantly transforming, that's kind of the norm, right? You're never going to be done. I think it's just going to continue to accelerate with more pieces in the puzzle.
Now, technology is moving really fast right now. Some of that driven by COVID, some of that just driven by the way the market is. We're seeing a lot of really cool innovations. So for an organization like you guys, you have to stay on top of all that. So how do you do that? How do you stay aware of what's the next greatest thing, or whether something's actually going to stick around, or a technology that's just a fad?
It's the old adage is you get the best feedback from your customers, and you see when we're engaging with folks, we'll start on a particular initiative or initial program of moving things to the cloud or migrating or deploying a new ERP or whatever, but then it becomes very horizontal. You've got the data, you have the information, you have the insight. Now you're able to manage change and deploy that successfully and carefully and mitigate your risk. And if you're doing that here, you can do that, rinse and repeat time and time and time again. And you now have that information, and that book of knowledge is almost like kind of institutional information. Because historically what would happen is this project would happen, you'd bring an army of people in to do the work, and then they'd go away. And then all of that knowledge and all of that IP would move away with the team that deployed it. Now you have that information, and that becomes kind of the foundation for how you manage and embrace, those transformations, on an ongoing basis. It kind of sets you up with a solid foundation. So we're constantly hearing feedback from customers as far as what's relevant, what they need, and we're integrating that into our footprint. But it's the idea that it's always evolving, and there's always going to be something new, and it's your ability to consume that on a consistent basis that doesn't break anything in the process.
Now, I want to ask a fun question here, because organizations like yours, you get to experience a number of different companies, and no two companies are the same. They all have different technologies deployed different ways. What's the biggest nightmare technology for you? The one that you see and you're like, not another one of these.
You're looking for a beam that'll hold your weight and a length of rope.
I think there's always this expectation or perspective that people know what's out there and people know who's using it or how it's being used. And again, the larger the organization, the more hands there are in an infrastructure that's evolved over years, that becomes more and more nebulous and more unclear. So oftentimes people think that there's this pristine information that sits in a CMDB somewhere and everybody knows, but that is very rarely the case, and it's often a discovery session and a fact-finding mission, and you're aggregating and pulling together kernels of information along the way. So there's no one single culprit. It's really, I think, managing the expectation of what the business wants, what they want yesterday, and they just expect IT to do it tomorrow, and there's massive gaps between what the expectations are and what people are equipped to be able to do. And so kind of bridging that gap is the biggest rub that we often encounter.
That was a great politician's answer there. I was hoping you were going to call somebody out specifically.
He's Paul Deur, and he approved this message.
Exactly. So I want to talk kind of about what's the future for ReadyWorks, and it sounds like we've got some big announcements coming down the road from you guys in terms of the next steps.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm thrilled to announce that probably by the time this thing goes live, we're going to formally announce our Series A round, which was we did that in partner with the Credit Suisse Next Fund, which we're thrilled about. And so it's really kind of taken our vision for the space that we've been working on for a number of years and enabling us to kind of take it to the next level. So we're growing on every front. We're going to be pursuing additional hires and growing our respective teams from product and development to customer success to sales and marketing and really pushing on all of those objectives. But it just kind of takes this foundation that we've bootstrapped to date, and then taking it to the next level with additional capacity and kind of more support and resources and all of those good things. So super excited, and 2022 is off to a great start.
That's awesome. I know as the co-founder there, I'm sure that was a lot of work on your end and the culmination of a lot of effort. So congratulations on that for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, and if people want to find out more about ReadyWorks, it looks like ReadyWorks.com is the place to go, and you've got all the resources there and a lot of success stories and opportunity for a demo and things. So definitely head over to ReadyWorks.com if you want to know more. All right, well, we really want to thank you for taking the time with us, Paul. I know the first of the year here is pretty busy, and so. And especially with sounds like what's going on there. So we appreciate you carving out some time for us.
I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you all and share the story. And likewise, good luck to all in 2022, and certainly optimistic and looking forward to what's ahead.
Always optimistic at the start. We'll talk again in December. We'll see how it went. All right, well, we're going to take a quick break and we'll come back and talk about the news from the last couple of weeks. But Paul, thank you so much, and thank you for sticking with us right through this break. We'll see you in just a second.